Welcome back. So flourishing has become my new obsession. You can frequently find me flourishing grocery lists, to-do lists, cards for friends and family. It's basically become the cornerstone of my personality. Today I'm going to teach you how to flourish every single letter of the alphabet twice. The first set of letters will be easy and the second set will be a little bit more challenging. For those of you who are really looking to up your game, one thing I will say about flourishing before we get started is that to me it was a very daunting topic. In my opinion, you do not need to remember how to flourish each letter individually, but what you do want to have in your arsenal are a set of 3 to 4 basic strokes or shapes that you can add on to each individual letter, and I will show you what I mean. So what I did here is laid out a few of the what I consider to be basic flourishing type shapes that you may want to remember. Now, I give you 8 examples here. Maybe you only can remember 2 or 3 of them, but now I'm going to go back in and connect each one of those examples to a couple specific letters. That way you can sort of start to see the formula that we're going to try to create in order to flourish every single letter of the lowercase alphabet. I'm gonna start with the letter H. And I am out of frame. The way I teach calligraphy, I actually break down every single letter into individual strokes. So this is basically just the one additional stroke you would add at the end if you'd like to flourish your letters. Because for me, it's so much easier to remember how to do something if I just remember a specific order of steps or if I only have to remember 3 or 4 individual parts. Flourishing this way is a really great way to start learning, but eventually you're gonna wanna be able to implement the strokes in order. So instead of having to go back in at the end and add them in, you're gonna want to make space for them as you're already lettering. Because if you try to go back and add them in at the end every time, you'll probably end up with your spacing being a little bit off on either side of the letter. And if you're writing a letter by itself, it's not as hard. When we start writing entire words, you'll start to see why it's important to do your flourishing as you go along. Now, to illustrate my point I made earlier about flourishing not having to be different for every single letter, I'm gonna go back in and do the exact same thing with the lowercase letter K. The flourish to the left of the letter will work for any sort of letter that has that sort of loop-to-loop at the top. And then the flourish that I did below will work for basically any letter where you have a downstroke that's going to end in like a curve. It doesn't really work for the letter W, for example, because our W ends up here versus down here. So any of your strokes that sort of end in this sort of an area, that's where you can implement the second stroke that I showed you. So now that I've kind of explained the formula, I want to go back in and I want to letter every single letter of the lowercase alphabet with 2 different types of flourishing for you guys. Hello, this is Editing Lauren here, coming in, by the way. I just wanted to let you guys know that I ended up making a PDF version of every single letter that I do in today's video. So if you want to jump over to my Etsy and download that before finishing the rest of this video, you can print it out and trace along with me. You can use it on your iPad, whatever you want to do. But I just wanted to let you guys know if you're watching me do these letters and you're like, you can trace them, I will have it linked down below. Okay, enjoy the video. And while you're watching that time lapse of me, I do want to talk a little bit about my methoding and reasoning behind these different letters that I created. For some of it, I was honestly just totally winging it. That's the fun part about flourishing. You actually don't really need to know anything specific about lettering in order to add flourishes. There are no rules. You can actually do whatever the heck you want, and that is pretty evident by what I put down on this page. Your hand starts going in that loop-to-loop motion. You start to understand the structure of a flourish. You start to understand how you want to space it. This honestly comes with time and practice. I know, what no one ever wants to hear. Literally, the only way I got better at flourishing was just by doing it over and over and over again. I also totally failed on that second C that I did, but if you watched my last video where I went to Dollar Tree and I bought a bunch of stationery supplies, I just took the Dollar Tree glue stick I bought the other day, cut out a piece of paper, and it was like nothing was ever there. Except now there's just a huge piece of paper. I really like looking up reference photos online for specific letters, and I will take pieces of flourishes from different letters and I will combine them together. There is a little bit of a method behind the madness that you see. Obviously, like I mentioned before, anytime you have a letter that ends in a downstroke, you can add a flourish below the letter, which I absolutely love because you can write letters in sequence and it doesn't take up more space horizontally. And if you have a letter that ends in an upstroke, you could add a flourish above the letter as well. Or if you're just feeling crazy, you can add a flourish to the left, to the right, above, below. You can do all of them at once. Some of these letters, I will agree, are a little bit on the crazier side. I don't know, maybe you're inviting your girlfriends over to a bonanza dinner party and you want to have super unique invitations. I'm just trying to give you an excuse to do this hand lettering because it's just so stinking fun. I love it. I think you definitely have to be in a creative mood when you're flourishing. It's not really something that's gonna come to you when you're just begrudgingly writing something down. It's something where you just kind of have that like noodly feeling and you just want to draw. That's when flourishing is gonna hit you the best. But again, you'll notice I used a lot of similar shapes for all of the letters that I did. I really just sort of rotated between 5 to 6 different shapes, and then every once in a while I would like throw in something unique and different if it just kind of came to me in the moment. Sometimes you just kind of like make a flourish and then you just never really stop. You just keep on going and going until you run out of room. I think the fun with flourishing really comes when you start to trust yourself. That's the biggest thing about it. You can't hesitate. When you're drawing fine lines like this, the second that you hesitate, that pen is gonna start to bleed into the paper. It's gonna start making those little rigidy marks. I'm not trying to stress you out, but it's very obvious when you let your hand just really flow with it. You trust yourself, there's confidence there. This really all is a mental game, guys. Calligraphy is all mental. Okay, now we finished the alphabet. I want to start putting some of these into words so you can sort of see if you're not just writing a singular letter, which is pretty rare. I don't know when exactly you would do that, maybe for like table place cards or stamps. But 9 times out of 10, when you're writing a letter, you're writing it in the context of a word or a name. So just for fun, I'm going to pick some random names and letter them for you and show you how I would flourish them. One of my favorite ways to practice calligraphy is by lettering envelopes. So I've got a bunch of these tiny little envelopes left over from a batch I bought. I think I actually bought these by mistake because I thought they were normal size envelopes, and then I got them in the mail and they looked like this, and I'm like, well, what am I gonna use these for? So I've just been using them to write little thank you notes and stuff, but they're perfect for practicing my calligraphy. If you want, you can give yourself little pencil marks. So like when I'm doing an envelope, it's nice to have a little bit of guidelines so I don't accidentally write the entire name off center. So the first name I'm going to do is Megan because it's my sister's name. And because I focus on lowercase letters in this video, I'm just gonna do all these names in lowercase letters. So as you can see, even though I did draw myself those pencil marks, I did still write the entire name completely off center. But one fun fact about flourishing is that you can use it to cover mistakes. So I'm just gonna take this flourish and run it all around the side of the paper. Guess what? Now it looks like I tried to do that. Not bad. Also, if I do end up lettering your name on one of these, please leave a comment down below. I'll totally send it to you in the mail. One thing I did notice, especially when I was lettering this page, was that simple flourishes like a loop-de-loop before a letter are super duper easy to add in, and it gives you a little bit of practice doing that sort of shape, but you're not really doing any extra work. It does still look really, really cool though. I love calligraphy to death. Obviously, it's my passion. It's my livelihood. But plain calligraphy can be kind of boring. It gets really redundant after a while, and when you want to mix it up, all you gotta do is whip out your pen and start loop-de-looping it around in different directions. I think you definitely have to be in a creative mood when you're flourishing. It's not really something that's gonna come to you when you're just begrudgingly writing something down. It's something where you just kind of have that like noodly feeling and you just want to draw. That's when flourishing is gonna hit you the best. So as you might notice, I don't like to add a flourish to every single letter. Even I think that might be a little bit overwhelming when you're writing someone's name. So I usually do either the first letter and the last letter, or maybe if it's a longer name, I'll pick a letter or two in the middle to add a flourish above or below the letter. But I like to sometimes think of flourishing as bookends to what is otherwise a complete work of art. It just sort of adds that little extra oomph on either side of it. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to find out where you can get worksheets, printable, downloadable, or otherwise of the lettering that I did today, check the description box. I will figure out a way to make it a PDF for you guys. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. I don't know when I will see you next. I don't know what day this is that I'm posting this, but I hope you're having a great day. It's Valentine's Day today when I'm filming this actually, so happy belated Valentine's Day to all of you guys. If you didn't hear it from anyone else, I love you. And I will see you later. I'm having a good day. Hope you're having a good day. Okay, bye.